Investigative reporter Hare spoke with residents in one village who say bursting water lines are ruining people's lives and officials need to step in and help.
Yes, so what you see behind me, this is downtown Mainville, Ohio. I'm told many of these homes are about 100 years old. And thanks to the sheer force of gushing water, some of those homes, they'll never look the same. For more than 45 years, Gus Bunnell has called Mainville home. October 25th, 2023 was a day Bunnell tells me was like none other when he and his wife were woken up by a strange sound.
We heard rocks bouncing off the window and we thought it was hail. So we went downstairs and looked outside. That water main from the street was spraying to my house, just rocks, just tons and tons of water.
The damage was extensive. Ceiling destroyed, windows broken, carpet ruined. Bunnell tells me he immediately filed a claim with Warren County. Just 2 days after the main burst, Bunnell says he received this letter from the County Commissioners Association of Ohio. It says their investigation determined Warren County is not liable for the damage to his home. Bunnell says his insurance has helped some, but not nearly enough to cover the roughly $50,000 needed to fix his home.
But I think since it's out there on the street and it's their main, they should be responsible.
Bunnell lives in that home, but it still has no carpet or windows.
It's been difficult, but me and the wife, we've handled it pretty well.
And Bunnell isn't alone. You only have to walk a few steps to find another patch and another story of a person who was awoken in the middle of the night.
I was yelling for my son to get up. He was in the room on that side of the house. And I told him to put his mattress over the window to try to keep the water out. And the mattress folded in half and there was nothing we could do.
The sounds of construction work echoes through the home as Ronald Wise shows me around. The damage, the result of a water main break in December. Wise says he's paying for repairs out of pocket until his insurance is able to step in. There's no timeline for when he will be able to move back into his home.
The water went from the front of this house through them windows over that and come straight back here, and I'll show you this. This basement was completely flooded up to this gray board.
Oh, wow.
My washer, my dryer, my deep freeze, my furnace, the water heater, everything was floating.
It was all just floating in the water.
Yeah, it was terrible.
The water main breaks aren't just affecting residents. The owner of a salon says they've been bad for business. Without water, I'm told they've had to close multiple times in the past 6 weeks.
We're having water main breaks at least once a week. And one day before Thanksgiving, when we were all double booked and ready to make some money, and we had to close and contact all our clients.
Water main breaks are happening so frequently, they've even become a running joke on social media.
Somebody said, we're taking bets. Who wants to bet where the next one is going to hit and when it's going to hit? And people commented on it because that very next day, it happened a street away. And they said, Foster Mainville in 3, 2, 1, and it already hit.
Take a look at this drone video. You can see multiple patches in downtown Mainville, the signatures of additional water main breaks. This comes at a time when the small town is growing, as the population has increased more than 40% over the past decade.
I'm worried. They can't handle all this growth, and they just keep adding more pressure to the lines.
I went to the Warren County government office to get answers on why this is happening and what is being done to fix it.
Our issue, I think, in some of this area is that some of the mains that were installed date back to the 1960s. And some of these mains are tired and worn and need to be replaced.
The director of the Water and Sewer Program tells me the structural damage seen at Bunnell and Wise's homes is unique to downtown Mainville because these homes are older and built closer to the road than is standard today.
So you have homes that are within 20 foot of the roadway, and our water line has to fit between the road and those homes. So our mains in this specific area are close to the homes. And so when they pop, when they do have a main break, you know, that water comes out of that main shooting 20, 30 foot in the air. And in this case, unfortunately, these homes are right next to the main and causing some of the structural damage. We never like to see that happen. So that it catches our attention, and that's why we're trying to move this project up in our priority list.
When you're talking about trying to prioritize this or move this up more, what steps does that require?
Right now, we're having discussions with contractors about pricing the replacement of this water line. And we're collecting survey information from engineering firms so that we can start the design process. So that process, that design and construction process, potentially will take somewhere around 6 months to do, which, for us, that's expediting it.
When it comes to footing the bill for repairs, Fox 19 Now legal analyst Mike Allen says, in most cases like this, it's left to the residents, thanks to the doctrine of sovereign immunity. It essentially says the government can't be sued without its consent. Exceptions can be made in some cases, like if the government is found to be acting recklessly.
It's extremely frustrating. It really is. I mean, I think the average citizen would think that, hey, if it's the government's, if it's their function and they screwed up, they ought to pay. But the doctrine of sovereign immunity prevents that.
In the meantime, in Maineville, people tell me they are left to wait and hope they're not next.
These water main breaks are destroying people's lives, and it's not okay. We're all pretty angry and pretty scared.
Now, the Warren County Water and Sewer Director does tell me that changing those old water mains would require approval from county commissioners, so we will, of course, stay on top of that and bring you updates as this continues to develop. Candace Hare, Fox 19 Now. Megan, a woman that I spoke with tells me that on 13 separate occasions, she's went to make an offer on a home and has been beaten out by all cash buyers. She tells me it's been an exhausting and emotionally draining ride. And when I looked up at the data, I learned she's not the only one.
So I actually had a conventional loan. I was able to pay 20, even 30 or 40% down on some of these properties. And it just still wasn't enough.
Erin Jamison tells me she has a master's degree, a job that pays well and only spends money on essentials. Buying a home wasn't a dream, but rather an expected step in her life, until it wasn't.
A lot of times I didn't even have a chance to bid on a house. This would be because I would go to the house the day of an open house and they would already have cash buyers. And so it's really hard to compete with that.
Last year, over 19% of Greater Cincinnati homes sold were to all-cash buyers. It's a trend that has continued this year.
And that makes it very difficult for those that do need to finance their purchase. It makes it very difficult for them to compete against. So we're still seeing a lot of outside investors that are coming in and making those cash purchases, and in an effort to, whether they're renting them or whether they're actually flipping them. But in a lot of instances, a lot of them are rental situations.
That number of all-cash home purchases last year nearly mirrors the percentage of homes in Cincinnati bought by investors. Does it feel like for just a regular person that it's not possible to keep up with the investors?
I think for the average person, especially looking at even median income in Ohio, it's not possible.
Typically, our members are taking sometimes the worst house on a street or in a neighborhood and improving it.
Deborah Collins with the Real Estate Investors Association of Greater Cincinnati says in her experience, property investing has become more popular. She tells me that investors, so long as they abide by regulations in place, can benefit communities.
Just 2 years ago, my company purchased a property that had been vacant for 10 years and had been broken into a number of times and run down and not well kept. And the neighborhood was grateful when we came in and were able to get that rehabbed and sold to a nice family and providing property taxes to the county again.
Data from real estate brokerage Redfin shows nationwide the number of homes being purchased by investors has dropped slightly, but still sits higher than pre-pandemic levels. It's a decrease that isn't happening quickly enough for people like Erin.
It's just this sinking feeling after a while, and after a while it's kind of resignation. I just told my realtor I was going to take a couple months off, because it's really emotionally draining, it's financially draining, even just spending the gas to go to these places. And it starts feeling like you're never going to be able to save enough in order to get a house.
So, of course, there are many factors in play in any market, and in this market dynamic, we're seeing a lack of homes for sale as well. Both data from Redfin and the real estate agent that we spoke with say there are less homes for sale in Cincinnati, which, as you would imagine, would make things more competitive. And that real estate agent I spoke with tell me that is in part due to a spike in interest rates and home construction delays. Hare, Fox 19 Now. Yes, Tricia, Megan, that reported inmate on officer attack took place on Christmas Day at the Lebanon Correctional Institution. And it came at a time when we saw multiple indictments for inmates attacking officers being issued by a Warren County grand jury. So we decided to take a closer look. We obtained and searched through hundreds of records in order to find out how often these reported attacks are happening and what is being done to stop them.
She mad at me because I'm about to lock down and do everything in my cell. It ain't nothing to do out here in this weak prison that you can do 15 security. Hey, you trying to come out here because you trying to lock me down?
I'm not trying. I'm actually going to
I
lock.
don't give a about nothing you talking about, girl. You trying to come out here?
So what I'm actually going to do is have you step out because now I'm searching your cell.
Oh, you gonna have a temper tantrum. That's what you gonna do.
Merry Christmas.
You gonna have a temper tantrum.
Yes,
Why
Merry
are you
Christmas.
touching me? Go. Why are you touching me? You touching me?
You can hear a scream in this body cam footage worn by one of the two officers who appear to be hit by an inmate at the Lebanon Correctional Institution. The high security male prison houses more than 1,500 offenders. And what you see here, the view from an officer who appears to lay on the ground for over a minute, is only one of the hundreds of attacks by inmates against staff reported at the prison since 2019. Records we obtained from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections show that less than 1 month after this incident, another officer was allegedly hit by an inmate. An incident report describes the officer being hit in the face multiple times until he was knocked down to the ground. A 2022 report from the Ohio State Correctional Institution Inspection Committee reveals the number of reported inmate assaults against staff at the facility doubled between 2018 and 2019. The committee's data collection method has since changed, and they now track reported violent incidents and not only assaults against staff. As you can see here, the report shows Lebanon Correctional had 160 reported violent incidents against staff in 2021, a number that is far higher than facilities deemed comparable by the state. Representative Gene Schmidt serves as the chair of the CIIC. Among the goals of these inspections is pointing out any concerns at Ohio's prisons with the hopes of developing ways to improve conditions.
The reports are presented to our committee. It's also to the head of the prison system, the DRC, as well as the prison that we have inspected itself.
The Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections tell me this prison houses some of their most challenging inmates in their system, and that they understand the, quote, difficult and dangerous job their staff face each day. I reached out to the ODRC multiple times, asking to speak with them about this concerning trend of attacks against staff at the facility. I was instead referred to a statement in which the ODRC tell me they have implemented multiple strategies like monitoring suspected gang members and adding more security cameras in an effort to reduce violence in the prison. Despite those strategies, 2022 state inspection data reveals some of the prison's officers say they are still concerned.
Somebody hit me in the face? My eye is broke.
In 2022, Lebanon Correctional was inspected by a state committee twice. A subsequent state report shows 9 corrections officers working at the prison met with the inspection committee. In those interviews, quote, most officers rated staff safety as low.
It's okay. Just breathe. It's okay. It's okay.
In an incident report we obtained from the Ohio State Highway Patrol, both of the officers in this footage were listed as having possible internal injuries. The inmate accused of attacking them, Eric Rontel Williams, was indicted by a Warren County grand jury. It's one of more than 40 indictments issued in connection with inmate on corrections officer assaults at Lebanon Correctional since 2019. As far as the prison itself, there will now be a change of leadership. Internal communications we obtained show the decision has been made to hire a new warden and deputy warden. The new warden, Douglas Lunecki, was previously the deputy warden at the Warren Correctional Institution. The former warden, Hare, will serve in the same role, but at Warren Correctional instead. Now, it's worth noting that in that 2022 inspection interview, it revealed that staff morale at the facility was listed as low. The report states that that is linked to low staffing levels, mandated overtime, and low pay. Candace Hare, Fox 19 Now.
1 minute to post time, approaching the gate.
12 horses have died.
They're moving in the gate.
Another horse has been euthanized after a race.
It's not okay for animals to die. It's not okay for animals to suffer for a sport.
If you come in the next day and that stall is empty because the horse got hurt, it's a very quiet barn. No, we love our horses.
In 2022, 328 thoroughbreds died from racing-related injuries. That's according to data from the Jockey Club. The fatality rate for U.S. racehorses in 2022 was the lowest in over a decade.
There are a lot of unanswered questions, and you said it, Tricia, there are now 12 horses that have died.
But horse racing finds itself in the spotlight after multiple horses died in the days surrounding the sport's signature Triple Crown series.
While we'd love it to be zero, I can promise you 0 is not attainable.
Eric Hamelback represents racehorse owners and trainers across the country.
We can mitigate risk, but we can't eliminate risk.
According to research published in the Journal of Veterinary Diagnostic Investigation, catastrophic musculoskeletal injuries are the most common cause of euthanasia in racehorses. These injuries include fractures and sprains. The British Horse Racing Authority says a broken leg, for example, can be deadly because horses cannot stay off their feet for long periods, giving those bones little chance to heal. Documents obtained from the Ohio and Kentucky State Racing Commission show there were 12 racing-related thoroughbred deaths at Tri-State tracks last year, 9 at Belterra Park and 3 at Turfway Park. 2022 state records show a decline in racing-related fatalities in Kentucky, but the same trend has not been seen in Ohio in recent years. The Ohio State Racing Commission and Belterra Park did not accept our interview request.
The most pivotal point of horse safety starts with the horseman, right? It starts with the trainer.
I don't know, sometimes I get the feeling that the keyboard warriors who aren't invested in the game think we have no emotional attachment to these animals, and that's just not true.
Trainer Jeff Greenhill is based out of Turfway Park and frequently races horses at Belterra Park. He tells me that one of his horses recently died.
One of the soundest horses in my barn took a bad step and broke a back leg. I'm crying, his sister Crainer's crying, the groom's crying, and it's just so devastating.
Horse racing is a part of the United States.
Doping scandals have rocked the horse racing community.
There are so many horses dying on racetracks right now.
We've seen painful tragedies on the track in recent years.
The key factor in this is the use of medication.
2023 is not the first time horse racing has been in the headlines for the wrong reasons.
What actually happened to the horses amounted to nothing less than abuse.
In 2020, the sport was rocked by the federal indictment of 27 horse racing participants.
As we allege, PEDs were given to racehorses in an effort to increase their performance beyond their natural abilities.
The alleged scheme cast into the spotlight the deficiencies in horse racing's testing protocols. Some industry leaders tell me that horse racing's rule book was different in Kentucky than it was in Ohio or anywhere else across the country. Only recently has that changed.
Today's vote is a vitally important step in advancing reforms to protect our equine athletes and jockeys.
Greenlit by Congress, the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, or HISA, has been celebrated by some as the solution to this issue. In May, HISA implemented a brand new anti-doping and medication program. Conducting the testing is Drug Free Sport, who currently count the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NBA among their list of high-profile clients. But drug testing is not as simple as only detecting banned substances. A review of trainer violations nationwide shows the top 5 trainers at the Tri-State's 2 thoroughbred racetracks combined for more than 60 documented medication-related infractions in their careers. The vast majority of these documented positive tests were overages of legal medications.
So when you hear the word doping, as I do, get cast out for what might be a positive of a therapeutic medication, that is completely false.
Veterinarian Dr. Mary Scalay tells me legal doesn't necessarily mean without risk.
Because there are some medications that, while having ethical use in a horse recovering from illness or injury, if administered in proximity to a race, could mask a physical problem that, you know, at high speed and under racing conditions could manifest in a become a progressive problem, a much more serious injury, and we certainly don't want that.
In human sports, sometimes we hear about substances that there is no test for them. Is that a concern or an issue in horse racing?
Sure. And I mean, the reality is there are things that we know exist that we can't test for. And I think the first and most important thing that we need to remember is that drug testing as a standalone is not a sufficient tool. It's a tool in the toolbox.
Also included in that toolbox, I'm told, is a whistleblower tip line and a national investigative team.
We have a very big investigation team that's United States wide, so we're getting a lot of information and we're able to chase that information down and either prove it true or prove it false.
HISA's Mark Guilfoyle tells me there is more work to be done, but at a point where racing's reputation is on the line, some industry leaders tell me they are hopeful that these changes could save the horses and the sport.
We've got the opportunity to make it successful for the health of the horse, the health of the sport, and for the support of the public for horse racing.